What does it mean to walk in the way of the Lord? To delight in Him, and to not walk down crooked paths. I want to go over that today and go through Psalm 1. Listen to what Psalm 1 says, starting in verse 1, going to verse 4. Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of scoffers. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates day and night. He is like a tree planted by streams of water, that yields its fruit in its season, and its leaf does not wither. In all that he does he prospers. The wicked are not so, but are like chaff that the wind drives away. So let's break this down. Let's look at verse 1 and 2 again. It says, Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of scoffers. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates day and night. Well, what did Jesus say in Matthew 22:37-40? He said, You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the great and first commandment, and a second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments depend all the law and prophets. Likewise, in Galatians 5:14 it says, For the whole law is fulfilled in one word, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. So it's safe to say the law can be summed up in this. Love the Lord your God with everything in you, and love your neighbor as yourself. When we meditate on this, on our relationship with God, and walking out life with Him, and when we meditate on living a life of loving the people around us, and when we walk in this love, when we live out this law, will we not avoid the way of the sinners, scoffers, and wicked? If we are walking through life with God, loving Him, and in His love for those around us, we wouldn't take the counsel of the wicked. Now, this doesn't mean all worldly counsel is bad. There are people of the world who have great advice on certain things. The reason we wouldn't take the advice or counsel of the wicked is because the advice they give us would be wicked as well. For from the abundance of your heart your mouth flows. It would be contrary to the life we are walking in, the love and pursuit of God, and walking in His love for those around us. The same would be applied to the ways of sinners or sitting with scoffers. It just wouldn't happen because we are on two completely different paths that just won't intersect. Scoffing at the people around us wouldn't be loving our neighbors as ourselves, and willfully sinning repeatedly would not be loving God with all our heart. Now, there is a difference between willfully walking in sin and walking with God trying to get that sin out of your life. I'm not talking about the second, where you're working with God and occasionally slip back into sin. I'm talking about not caring about that at all and willfully walking in sin. It's also key to know that you cannot walk with people for very long who are doing these things, unless you'd like them to rub off on you and for you to fall into these things. For as Proverbs says, if you walk with fools, you will become a fool. Now, if they were walking with you and your fellow brothers and sisters in Christ, the inverse can be true. They may see Christ in you, and they may open that door for God to start to come into their life. But you must be the influence for them, not the other way around. A key theme you can take out of these verses is that the man or woman of God is pursuing Him, pursuing His ways, pursuing His love and a relationship with Him, and showing that love to those people around them. Not walking in the ways or paths of the world, and not following after them and what they chase after. Now let's look at verse 3. It says, He is like a tree planted by streams of water, that yields its fruit in its season, and its leaf does not wither. In all that he does, he prospers. Who is like a tree that's prosperous and fruitful? The blessed person whose delight is in the law of the Lord. The person who meditates on their relationship with God, their walk with God, the person who is following after God and pursuing Him. This is the same person who loves their neighbors, the people around them, and who meditates on that, on how they can walk in love for the people around them and show the love of God to them. This person is like a tree planted by streams of water. In other words, this person is planted in streams of living water. This person has found a stream of life. When we are walking in a relationship with God, which stems from loving the Lord with all our heart, then you are walking in streams of living water. You are walking in true life and what you were created for, fellowship with the living God. This person is like a tree that's planted by its source of life, by streams of living water. This tree or this person is going to yield the fruit it was created to bear in its due season, and its leaves will not wither. When we are plugged into the source of life, when we are plugged into God, and when we are in a healthy relationship with Him, we are going to bear fruit in our lives. Now, that can take many different forms, but that fruit that we bear, who do you think that fruit is for? The fruit that we bear is both for ourselves, but also for the people around us, the people in our lives and in whose lives we have influence. When we are plugged into the source of life, we are going to produce fruit of that life source for all to enjoy. It ties back into loving our neighbors as ourselves. Let's take one of the fruits of the Spirit, for example, peace. Peace is a huge gift in our life, and God will give us a peace that's beyond all understanding when we are plugged into Him. But that same fruit of peace isn't just for our lives. It is a fruit that can and should be enjoyed in the lives of those around us. What that looks like can take various forms, but for example, it can look like someone who's been around us and knows us, and sees the fruit of peace in our life, and they know that in a difficult season in their life, they can come to us because of the peace that we carry. And maybe that leads to them seeking out the same peace that we have. Maybe it leads to them having a glimpse of Christ through us. Whatever the case, we are walking in the law, in the commandments to love the Lord our God with all ourselves, and to love our neighbors as ourselves. And when we are plugged into the source of life, we will not wither. We will not grow dry, because as Jesus said, we are not living by bread alone, meaning we are not living purely by physical sustenance, but we are living on the sustenance for our souls, for our very being. We are living on the living water, for which we were created. And what does it say about this person? It says that they will prosper in all that they do. Now, do I think that this means that every plan we ever make will come to pass and that we will have our every wish? No. But I do believe that this means that when we are plugged into God, when we are following the law to love the Lord our God and to love our neighbors as ourselves, I believe that we will discover, come to know, and fulfill the plans, purposes, and will that God has for us here on earth, that we will come to know our calling that God has given us, and His will that He has for our life and just in general. And when we know those things, when we walk with Him and He is leading our lives, as we pursue Him and these things, then I believe we will be prosperous in all that we do, even if it's not the way we thought that it would come to pass at first. Because God will not ill-equip us to do the work He has called us to, and He will not ill-prepare us to fulfill the things that we are called to do. Now let's take a look at verse 4. It says, "The wicked are not so, but are like chaff that the wind drives away." The wicked person, the person who pursues evil things, pursues sin and the lusts of the flesh, this person will have a completely different story than the blessed person. The wicked person pursues the temporary things of this world, generally thinking that those things will give them peace, or satisfaction, or fulfillment, and so on. But the truth is, those worldly and sinful things are fleeting like the wind. They will never bring true peace or fulfillment, or what your heart and soul is longing for, simply because they can't. You were not made for them. The wicked person, it says, is like the chaff that the wind blows away. The wicked person isn't going to have a firm foundation in life. They aren't going to have the true source of life to tap into, and they're going to be spiritually malnourished because they aren't connected to what they were made for. They're going to be blown and tossed around by this world, always searching for something they can't seem to find, because they are looking in all the wrong places. We were made in the image of God and to have a relationship with Him, a real, deep, and intimate relationship. We were made to know Jesus Christ and to walk with Him. He is the truth and the life, and He is the living water.